parecido com mel.
My name is Gustavo Machado Pinto. I'm 5th degree black belt. My nickname is Guga. It's a common nickname in Brazil for Gustavo. I was born in Rio de Janeiro, and my dad moved to work to São José dos Campos when I was about 6 years old. I never had a chance to train jiu-jitsu because we didn't have jiu-jitsu in my city. And a master in jiu-jitsu moved from Rio to São José. His name is Sérgio Lisboa. He was a policeman chief. He actually moved from Rio to São José, and he started teaching jiu-jitsu in the city. I used to do judo beforehand. I was 8 years old. I did judo for probably 2 or 3 years. And then I did capoeira for many years as well. My brother actually is a capoeira master. I went to a seminar of self-defense in a capoeira school from my master. And he taught like a lot of self-defense, some techniques in jiu-jitsu on the ground, and I fell in love with it. So that's how was my first interaction with jiu-jitsu. Since then, I started training jiu-jitsu and I never stopped. I only stopped because of a few injuries, but I never stopped completely. So I always loved because I was always a small person. I had 60 kilos, and then 65. And with jiu-jitsu, I could control bigger opponents. I could control and even beat people on the mats. Despite the size. So that's how I encountered jiu-jitsu, and that's how I still train in jiu-jitsu nowadays. When I started jiu-jitsu in Brazil, jiu-jitsu had a really bad reputation. My mom and dad always said, "Oh, forget about jiu-jitsu, go and study. Forget about jiu-jitsu, do something better in your life." But I always had a passion for jiu-jitsu. I always loved jiu-jitsu and the feeling that I had after training session, and the skills that I was learning as well. Over the years, jiu-jitsu is starting to change and starting to be a bit more professional. So when I got my black belt in Brazil in 2003, I decided to move out of Brazil because I wanted to learn English. I wanted to discover the world. And I tried to go to America, and they had the September 11th at the same time. And I managed, I couldn't get the visa, and I managed to contact a guy here, a friend of mine that was living in DY, in the Northern Beaches. And he said to me, "Guga, come here, we have a spare room here. You can stay here next to the beach. You can go to surf, and you can, try jiu-jitsu here." In Brazil, when I used to, train a lot in Brazil, we used to have like regional competitions, state competitions, nationals. And I used to compete as much as I could because I was studying at the same time. I was working at the same time. I had an acai shop in Brazil. When I was 17 years old, I went into a business entrepreneurship with my friends. And the business was very successful. And at the same time, I was studying law. So it was pretty chaotic. And I also did in the army, everything at the same time. Had a business. I was in the army, and I was studying at the same time. So when I was a purple belt, I didn't have much chance to compete. And then I started competing more often. And when I got to the black belt, I found that I need to go and explore. So I starting to send emails to other gyms in Australia to see if they could help me with a visa. And I sent a number of emails and number of contacts I made, but only one person returned my call and returned my emails, which was Professor Marcelo. Professor Marcelo from Gracie Barra. He had a small gym in Sydney, and he actually sent me a letter inviting me to come to Australia, written by Peter Debin, authorized by Peter Debin, which was at the time, and still at the time, president at this time, the president of the Australian Federation. So I received a letter in Brazil with an invitation to come to Australia to work. So my first visa was a working visa in Australia, and I stayed here for 1 year working, developing jiu-jitsu and trying to grow the sport. I compete here a lot in the first year because I wanted to show my skills and show jiu-jitsu to everyone. And I'm still working with Professor Marcelo until today. I'm part of the Cibaja now. I had 2 schools. I recently sold one, but I'm still, developing jiu-jitsu around the region here, around Australia, and still doing, what I love. My first competition in Australia was in the MMA event. They call it Spartan 8. And I was invited to participate on that using like a sort of a demonstration jiu-jitsu fight. But there's no demonstration jiu-jitsu fight, right? So you start slow and you go pretty hard. So it was against Daniel Lima, and it was the first black belt match in Queensland. So Daniel Lima was living in Queensland at the time, and we actually were pretty much the similar weight. And I ended up fighting him in a MMA event, which was like a great exposure for me as well, because it was my first jiu-jitsu competition. Then I went to my second competition was a no-gi event, and was an absolute. I was the lightest one in the division, and I was 65 kilos. And I fought with Rodney Ellis, he's probably 90 kilos. And then I fought in the final with Elvis Sinosic, which at the time, he was 105 kilos. So after my fight on the absolute, when I got second place against Elvis Sinosic, everyone's starting to know me a little bit better because I was no one when I came here. And I had a really good match against him. After that, I started to compete more, and I compete against Anthony Lang. I compete a couple of Abu Dhabi trials that I was successful. I went to Abu Dhabi to represent Australia. I also competed in the World Championships a few times, representing Australia. And now, I'm just focusing a little bit more on the business and helping other people with developing jiu-jitsu and developing themselves. And so I'm starting to, shift my focus to business and helping other people. But I still love, the competition aspect and help as many students as possible to compete. Professor Marcelo had, in 2007, Professor Marcelo was invited to work with the rugby club to add some extra training. So you do a bit of crossover training with the grappling for the rugby. So when I was working with Professor Marcelo, we developed a lot of techniques to adapt into the rugby code. So in 2007, we started the preseason with the Manly Sea Eagles, which is a very famous team here in Australia. And in 2008, the year after, we won the premiership. So it was amazing to see how jiu-jitsu can help in the rugby, and how the sports can combine. And after that, I work with many Australian teams. I work with the Australian Rugby Sevens. I work with the Waratahs. I work with the Knights, with the Newcastle Knights. And I also went to the France in a rugby union team called Narbonne. So that shows that how, jiu-jitsu can expand into different sports as well. I also work with the skiers, the moguls, the water polo, everything like just teaching jiu-jitsu and grappling for those codes. In 2010, I decided that I need to do something. I need to open my own school because I was working with Marcelo. Marcelo was growing, his business was growing, but I felt the need that I need to do something for myself and for my family as well. My son was almost coming, so my wife was pregnant, and I decided to open my school here in Newcastle. And people ask me, why Newcastle? Since I arrived in Australia, I used to come to Newcastle to do seminars and workshops, and they had a little group here that used to train jiu-jitsu. So after a while, the coach that was teaching here, he moved to a different location. He moved away from the city, and they found that they didn't have anyone to train. So they were willing to train, they were keen to train, they were hungry to learn, but they didn't have a teacher. So one of the students here, which is one of my black belts today, so he said, Guga, why don't you come to Newcastle? But at that time, I didn't have any money. I didn't have anything. And then I couldn't open a school. I couldn't do anything professionally. So he said, I can help you. I will lend you some money. We can open the first school and we can go from there. Then you pay me off. So that's what we did. So I came. My wife was living in Sydney. My son was just newborn. And I used to come to Sydney, to Newcastle every single day for 10 months. I did that for 10 months. I used to come like 10 o'clock in the morning, do all sessions, kids, adults, and then late at night, I would travel back to Newcastle. Because we didn't have a place to stay, we didn't have an income, and my wife said, look, you can go, see if it's gonna work, and then if it does work, and then we can move there. So in the beginning, it was really hard. So it was really challenging. We didn't know anyone here. My wife didn't know anyone here. So it was hard to find a place to live. So it was a bit of struggle in the first probably 2 or 3 years. But then we started to meet more people. We started to grow the school and meet new friends and meet the Brazilian community here in Newcastle. And then we starting to grow from there. So today we have a different location than when we started. So we're right in the middle of the city, and the school is growing every year. And I'm very happy with the staff that I have, with my students, and I'm really pleased that we made the right move. I think it was the right choice to come to Newcastle. Newcastle is a great city. We have so many things here, and there's no traffic. Everything is close by. For example, there are amazing beaches, like one next to the other. And at the same time, if you drive 5 minutes, feels like in a national park. There's national parks everywhere around here. There's waterfalls. There is natural swimming pools. For example, when I wake up, I like to go for a walk with my dog, go around the beach. If the surf is good, I go for a surf. And then if the surf is not good, I go to the gym and do some weights. I do a bit of a drilling. Some days we train in the morning, some days we train in the afternoon. But it's easy city to go by. Also great city to raise your kids because there are good schools, great activities. There are very good professionals in any sports. There is sports activities for kids. So it's an amazing city. You can go for like a ride along the beach. You can go for a jog, and there's like a beautiful bridge they just built in memory of the Anzacs. We have, always there is an event coming up to Newcastle. Now, this week we have the supercars, the V8 supercars. We have shows. We have, theaters. We have everything here. And it's still a small city. It's still like a country town. And that's why I love Newcastle, because it's easy and you have everything that we need. Because it's a small city, you have a chance to do a lot of things in one day. So for example, today I woke up, I took my kids to school, and then I went to like a walk along the beach with my dog. I sat down to have a coffee, enjoyed the surf at Blue Door Cafe. Then, and after, I took the dog home, play a bit of guitar or on the, you still have time. And sometimes I come here, teach in the morning, in morning class, and then I go back or go for surf or, there's so many things to do, and sometimes I walk with my wife, my beautiful wife, Karen. So, So we go for a walk, or we go for a jog, we sunbake on the beach. And because, as I said, it's so easy to go everywhere, so you don't want to spend time in traffic. The day looks like it's longer, and you can do a lot more in one day. Here at Gracie Barra Newcastle City, we have a variety of training. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we have gi and no gi. And then Tuesdays and Thursday, for example, we have a lunchtime class for people that work around the city here, or sometimes they have a lunch break. And it's actually one of the busiest class we have. We have also different levels of people coming to that class, which is always enjoyable because we have like a white belt and a black belt and a brown belt. So it's a mix of students. And in the afternoon, from 3 o'clock all the way to 9 p.m., we have kids classes, we have women's classes, we have MMA fundamentals class for beginners, and also the more advanced like collar belts class. For many years, I was doing everything myself. I used to be on the mats every single day, and I used to teach every single class, which is not ideal if you're running a business. But now we have Coach Rafael that we actually sponsoring him this year. We actually have Professor Josimar that he just arrived from Singapore with a lot of experience in gi and no-gi. So it's a great guy to have also in our school. And plus we have collar belts coaches. We have Jamie, we have Dino, we have some junior students as well that helping in class. And I'm really pleased that with the staff that we have. I teach the kids, especially, the values of brotherhood, the respect, discipline, and also like to respect their parents, to respect their family members, to respect the elderlies, and having like proper common sense, because people forgot how to have common sense, like behaving in class, dressing properly, staying in line properly, not talking cloth. Those little things that's what the parents put the kids in jiu-jitsu for the first place. In my adults class, I try to be the best teacher I can be. I always try to teach if it was my last class on the mat, trying to give as much energy as possible to the students and try to show my knowledge as best as I can. Because people won't sometimes remember the technique, but they will remember how you make them feel. So it's important for you to express yourself well and teach a good class, so they will come back, for the next day. Last year was the first year we had a competition kids program. For many years, I wanted to incorporate a kids competition team, and it was hard because I was doing everything on my own. But now with the coaches taking most of the classes during the week, I could focus on the competition team for kids. And we had an amazing result. Most of the kids had, succeed in competitions. They all got really, lots of medals throughout the year. And all the parents, they were really happy. So we also now trying to incorporate this to the adults that would like to compete. So we're trying to build now a proper competition team this year for the adults as well. And I guarantee that if they've been part of the program and they follow the footsteps of the program, they will actually do really well as well in competitions. And for me, competition, it's important as a personal development. So why competition is important? Because when you go to a competition, you start eating better, you start focusing on your training, you start sleeping better, you actually gonna fear the competition. You're gonna go and deal with all your emotions. When you go to a competition, you have that anxiety, that fear of losing, or the doubts in your mind. So, and overcoming all of that makes you a better person in it. It's not about the medal that you get. It's about how you become after the competition. And that's why the most valuable thing that you get from competition, learning about yourself, and this is a valuable lesson that no one can teach, is only yourself. And putting yourself into that stressful situations and putting yourself into those environments, that's what makes you, stronger outside the competitions. I would like to finish with the invitation to everyone to come and visit our school. We normally get visitors coming from everywhere, from Europe, from all the gyms here in Australia and Queensland, Victoria. Every now and then we get a visitor, but I would like to extend this to everyone, not just the Gracie Barra community, which they already come to see me sometimes, but for everyone. We open for all schools. And if you guys want to learn, and I would like to share my knowledge with you guys.
You push my legs out and then you go.
My name is Danilo. I'm a third-degree black belt. I'm the head coach and owner of Gracie Barra Central Coast and Gracie Barra Tagra. I was born in São Paulo, Brazil, east side of São Paulo, Brazil in 1979. Grew up in a small apartment with my parents, my sister, and lots of friends. Playing soccer all day, playing with kites all day, going to school, coming back, and a lot of times, getting in trouble for not doing my homework. Because I wanted to play, play sports in general. So I always got in trouble for not doing my homework. I wasn't very good at school. My first contact with martial arts was capoeira. So because of what I just said with the homework and the schoolwork, I had to go to capoeira and not tell my parents. So my dad didn't really like the people that I was hanging out with from that capoeira group. So I did that for a little bit, and then my dad actually got me into Taekwondo. I had a good friend of mine that was, fighting Taekwondo. He was doing really well at state level. I think he was like a state champion, a national champion. So he was really good at it. That was pretty much my childhood, like playing sports, playing with kites, do things that children like to do back then. I went to university in 1999 and to study management in tourism and hospitality. So that's when I met my wife in the first year. So we've been together ever since. And she is actually the person responsible for me to be here today, which I'll get into it later on. But that's also when I started Jiu-Jitsu. So in 2000, probably a couple years after I started in 2000, there was a purple belt teaching Jiu-Jitsu at the uni. I had a few friends of mine. Well, one actually my best friend who lives in Australia now too. He's the godfather of my daughter. He was always talking to me and trying to convince me to do it. And I was like, oh yeah, I don't know about that. I love surfing, so I like to surf. Don't want to get injured. We made a few jokes about Jiu-Jitsu. I didn't want to get into it. Until one day he convinced me to do it. I did my first session at the uni, and then got hooked straight away. Interesting, what got me hooked was I was able to, in the first class, I was able to apply, he showed an analog, so the guy showed an analog in the first class, and I was able to apply that to someone that was training for a while, and inspired. I think it was a specific training, it wasn't even sparring. But after that, there was a girl training as well. She was a blue belt, and she was about probably about 58 kilos, no, even probably 56 kilos. And the coach back then partnered me up with her, and I was like, well, I'm physically stronger than her, so I'll be able to handle it. So we started sparring, and I started going easy, and she tapped me real quick. And then a second turn, I went I'm gonna go a little harder. She tapped me again, and the third time I was oh, I'm gonna go full on now, and she tapped me even quicker. I think that's the effectiveness of the sport is actually what hooked me. It got me into it, and I never stopped since. Unfortunately, at the uni, the guy only just teach for another 2 weeks, and he was training at the Ryan Grace Academy, which was not too far from the uni. So he took me there. I approached him look, I'm really enjoying this. I want to keep training. I was like, oh, come with me. He took me to the Luciano Nucci Casquinha school, where I trained from the year of 2000, end of 2000, into 2005 when I came to Australia. As I said, I met my wife Karini in 1999. It was actually the first couple months of the university. We started dating, and since we met, she talks about studying overseas, going overseas and learning English. And I was like, oh, I don't know, it's gonna be hard for me to live away from my family. In 2005, after finishing uni, and I was a bit disappointed with working in Brazil and life in Brazil. I never honestly liked so much living in São Paulo. I think it's like a busy city, and I like the beach. So I was like, all right, so let's try. So the first option we had was going to California, just because it was a bit closer to the family. The jiu-jitsu scenario was a little bit bigger there, and one of the conditions that I have was like, yeah, we go, but we need training. I need training. I need somewhere to train. And California, the scenario was a lot bigger than Australia. There was not much happening here, but because I think the 9/11, the visa situation for Brazilians was very hard. So we had the risk of applying for visas in California and then get denied and lose everything, like all the money that we had, which was very short only for that matter. So I was like, she goes like, well, what about Australia? I was like, oh man, Australia is really far. So gonna be away from the family, and I don't know about jiu-jitsu there. So then I did a bit of research, and I saw Professor Marcelo Rezende was here. And because we were Ryan Gracie back then, and then Professor Marcelo always with Gracie Barra. So I was like, yeah, that's perfect, So we go living mainly or close to mainly, that'll be good. So my professor back home, Casquinha, sent Marcelo an email. I say, look, one of my students, he's a purple belt. He's moving to Australia. Like you were able to welcome him there. And then I came to Australia. It was first. The idea was to stay 6 months or 6 months to a year, learn English, and then go back to Brazil. But I think the moment that I put my feet in Australia, I decided that that's what I wanted to stay. Basically because of the lifestyle. Got here, I was able to train, I was able to work, I was able to surf, do everything in one day. And I wasn't worried about what kind of job I was doing, as long as I had that lifestyle. I could train, I could surf, and could pay my bills. That was the main thing. So we got here in October of 2005. We had, between both of us, we had $2,000 in our pocket, and we had to find a job. Otherwise, our stay here is going to be limited to a month. So we have to go back then. So I was lucky that I got like my first job within 2 weeks. So I went to this pizza shop and could not speak a word in English, So I memorized the sentence, I'm looking for a job. So then I went and knocked on every door, I'm looking for a job. So, and then they said something that I have no idea what they're talking about. And I was like, well, how do I, how do I complete this conversation now, So I went back home, I was like, all right, so if I say tomorrow, if they say yes, that means that I can come tomorrow. If they say no, that means that, I don't have the job or I don't have the trial. So I went back on again next day and then knocked every door again. Look, I'm looking for a job, and they said blah 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 blah, and I was like, yeah, tomorrow, and I go like yes or no until I got a yes, and then started working at this pizza shop. Worked for a week or so, and then went on and find another pizza shop to work, and then was delivering pizzas. That was my first job. And then from there, I went and find a second job, which was another restaurant that was also delivering pizzas. And then we started doing cleaning, my wife and I. And then I had the pizza shop and I had the cleaning, so I had 2 jobs. At one point, actually, I had 3 jobs. And then I started work because like the cleaning, the money was okay for cleaning, but then my English wasn't improving at all. And that was the main thing was to speak English a bit better, so to communicate. So I found a job in a surf shop, Surf Action. So first in a warehouse, and then I got moved to the shop in Manly. There's a shop in Manly. I don't even know if they're still there. I don't think so. But I worked there for 3 years, and then I had the surf shop, and then I had the pizza shop, which was in Manly as well. Sometimes I finished the surf shop like 5-ish and started working the pizza shop at 6. And my days off, sometimes I'll go and do cleaning with my wife. So I had 3 jobs back then. But like even doing all this, ever since I came here and started training with met Professor Marcelo, I knew that I would open up a school here. You know, I wanted to teach jiu-jitsu, so I did all this with a reason. I did all this because I wanted to eventually open my school. I wanted to eventually work and live from jiu-jitsu, which it happened in 2011. I had an experience before that. I think in 2010, I was a brown belt and I opened up a school in Linfield. I was in a school. I was renting some mat area. It went on for a month. It wasn't the right time to do it. There's like a few little things that happened that I decided to, you know, to pull back a little and wait into my black belt. And then in 2011, the opportunity came to open up here on Central Coast. And yeah, I'm here since then. So in 2011, I got a call from Professor Marcelo Rezende, and he was with Flávio Almeida, Cachorrinho, and in the car, he was with coming back from the Central Flávio Coast. Almeida, Cachorrinho, and they go like, Danilo, Flávio Almeida from the Central Coast. I was like, yeah, Cachorrinho. Oh, cool. He knew that I wanted to open up a school. I was like, yeah, the opportunity on the Central Coast. What do you think? I wanted to open up a school. You know, like the opportunity on the Central. I didn't want to move out of the Northern Beach because all my friends were there, and my training was there. So first, you know, like because all my friends were there, like maybe to find a place. Because all my friends still live in the Northern Beaches and teach, but let's check it out. So then we drove around a little bit, and then this guy wanted to sell. We had like a school, like a small school that he was here for 3 years, and he had a small mat area. The mat was about like 70 square meters. He was here for 3 years, and he wanted to sell it. He was here for 3 years. He was moving to Bali, and then he wanted to sell the school. The school back then had 18 students. He was here for 3 years. But then when I came, I saw a lot of potential here, because basically the closest school basically to where he was 10 k's away in Quincambar. You know, there was Thiago was 10 k's away in Quincambar. You know, I was like, well, he's not too close, so you know, so it's good for me to open. So you know, so and also, like with his class, the guy that wanted to sell the gym, his classes, he wasn't open every day. So I was like, you know, like he's got students and, you know, like there's people interested, you know, but he's not open every day. So there's this potential here. Look up at the population of the Central Coast, you know, like there's a lot of people living here. So I was like, I think it's a great opportunity. So I went ahead and bought the business with 18 students. And I think within 8 months or 10 months, I think we had 80 students. So, and then we had to move out of that small place. You know, like it was the small place. It wasn't easy. You know, a lot of people see us now and see like we have 2 schools. You know, have lots of students, and people think it was always like that. You know, have lots of students. No, it wasn't. I was still living on the Northern Beach. So I had to travel here every day to start. Living on the Northern Beach. Some days I had a private session in the morning at 7 o'clock. So I was sleeping on the mats. You know, to do that private session. My wife, which was probably the biggest help, she was working in an English school. So what we did is, like, I'll come here in the morning and she'll go to Sydney for work. So we're arriving here at Central Coast MMA now. Do a bit of a boxing session with Jamie. So now you're here at my house. This is the backyard of my house. Here at my house, as you can see, this is the backyard of my house. I like to relax the most. You know, as you can see, sometimes in the morning, sometimes this is the place that I like to relax the most. Depending on what my routine is like, sometimes in the afternoon. You know, so depending on what my routine is like. Some mornings I teach, some mornings I have the morning off. So I always like some mornings I teach, but I always like boxing or. Go to the gym and do my weight session, or if there's waves, I go for a surf session. I always like to do something in the morning. So wake up. You know, some days I have a breakfast. Some days I like to fast, have an empty stomach. So I think I feel quite good when I do that. You know, if I like, for example, if I'm going for a surf session, then I'll fast. But if I'm doing like any hard session, like boxing or anything like that, I like for a surf session. Then I'll just have some energy. And then after that, have some lunch. Sometimes, you know, I come back here, come back home, have some lunch, try to relax a little bit before. Sometimes, you know, get ready for the afternoon, come back home, so try to relax a little bit before. You know, can get ready for the afternoon. Sometimes, so you know, like I get my daughter from school, can get quite busy sometimes, you know. So the afternoon, some days I do a lot of admin stuff in the office. Straight to the gym. Then while my daughter is training, training jiu-jitsu, been training jiu-jitsu since 2.5. So the afternoon, and then you know, can get teach all straight to the gym. Then I teach every evening pretty much. You know, can get all of the advanced classes. Then so the ones that I take. You know, can get straight to the gym. Then so the afternoon, I'm lucky to have instructors now straight to the gym with my main instructor. So the afternoon, Jack is being with me. Can get straight to the gym. I think now so the training and he's been teaching straight to the gym 2012. If I'm not wrong, he'll be able to confirm that. You know, can get straight to the gym. But yeah, he's been with me for a long time. He's been helping me for a long time. He's the straight to the gym person. So I trust everybody there, but Jack is the one that I trust the most. Straight to the gym. Then been with me for the longest. You know, can get so yeah. So he's good help. Then so the afternoon. Yeah, so that's straight to the gym. Basically what my routine is like. So the afternoon. Finish the gym. Close the gym at about 8:30. Sometimes 9 o'clock. Come back home. You know, can get straight to the gym. You know, kiss my daughter to sleep. So and have some dinner and relax a little bit and go to bed. So yeah, that's what my routine is like. I've mentioned before, so I own Gracie Barra Central Coast and Gracie Barra Tagra. I've mentioned before, so I own Gracie Barra Central Coast and Gracie Barra Tagra because Professor Jack is the main professor. I'm not very present at Gracie Barra Tagra because Professor Jack is the main. But I am very present. He's the black belt. He's the person in charge. You know, like but I am very present at Gracie Barra Central Coast. You know, something that I you know, like I try really hard to create a great environment. You know, something that I think the way that we have really now things working, to create a great environment. We have and I think. Try like really familiar environment to create a great environment. Like lots of families, we have training there. Familiar environment, lots of kids, you know. But as well, I am a big fan of competition, you know, and I try to encourage everybody to compete. We have a competition team. We have like a pro session that we run every Saturday. I push the competition team, the competition squad really hard. You know, especially this year here, I'm focused. My main focus are the juniors and the juniors, the teens, and the juveniles. You know, to compete, because I think this is going to be the future. You know, like the competitors that we have now, the great competitors that we have now and in the past, they're starting to fade a little bit because you know, everybody's getting older and life change, family and things like that. So the teens is something that I'll be, the kids are something that I'll be really focusing as well was in competition. But yeah, we have a great environment. I have everybody there like us. But yeah, we have great friends to me. Most people, at least are close friends to me. Some people that have been with me for a long time, especially others that are coming in now. You know, like they also, you know, part of the family, part of the team. You know, like probably not as close as the other ones, you know, but part of the family, you know, part of the team. Depending, probably not as close as the other ones, but you know, end up the same. So that's how we. That's how I see it. That's how the environment that I try to create in the gym. So I got in Australia in 2005. 21st of October 2005 was my first day here. Like I came to Australia already knowing where I was going to train. I mentioned before my professor in Brazil, emailed Professor Marcelo here. So I've never seen a photo of Professor Marcelo. I knew who he was, but you know, I started training with the person that my professor back home recommended me to. So my first day here, we living in Balgala, and my wife and I were walking down to the beach, and I saw someone coming out of a car park wearing gi paints, and the gi paints had a logo. It was like an octopus, but it was written Gracie Barra. I had a triangle inside the octopus, and it was written Gracie Barra. And I was like, you know, carrying and holding a black belt. I was like, that has to be Marcelo, you know. So I screamed his name, like Marcelo, and he walked back. He looked back, and then I introduced myself. That same day, we had a chat, and then Professor Marcelo was like, well, come to the gym, you know, and we same day come for a training session, you know. I was like, yeah, just gonna go same for day. Surf, and then we had a chat, and then I'll come back, and then same day I had a funny story actually, because Marcelo that same time said to me like, "Are you going for a surf?" We had a chat, and you crazy? I was like, why? I was like, so many sharks out there.
We had a chat,
and you know, like I was new in Australia, and I was like,
same day,
kind of
we had a
terrified
chat,
a little bit, because like, you know, there must be a
same
lot
day,
of attacks here
we
and
had a
stuff like
chat,
that. But
and
when I got off the beach, I just saw
same day,
so many
we had a
people out in
chat,
the water.
and
So I went for the surf, and then came
same
back,
day,
and then I was
we
like,
had a chat,
you
and
know, went to
then
the gym because back then we were
same
at
day,
fight gym
we had
mainly.
a chat, and then
You know, it's really close to
same
the beach,
day,
so went there and have
we
a
had a
look, and I was
chat,
walk
and
up
then
the stairs. I saw Marcelo
same day,
and a few other guys.
we had
and
a
I looked,
chat,
like,
and
I
then
know, but I know this guy. It was Mark Hunt.
same day,
Mark Hunt was
we had a
training.
chat, and then
I was like, wow, that's Mark Hunt, you know. So,
same day,
and I saw
we
him
had a
and
chat,
Marcelo
and
came and
then
talked to me. And then
same day,
I
we had a chat,
you know,
and
next
then
day was that training, and
same day,
you know,
we had a chat, and then
being with Gracie Baja and Professor Marcelo.
Same day,
since then,
we had a chat,
you know,
and
that's where I made a lot of friends
same
there.
day, we
I
had a
think
chat,
all
and
that, you know, back
same
in
day,
2005, I
we had a
think,
chat, and then
taking, like, you know, like, I think there was only really 3 black belts. I mean, you know, back in that I knew in around, like, it was only Professor Marcelo, Professor Paulo Guimarães, and Professor Bruno Pano. These are the guys that are more present in competitions. I know that Anthony Lang was a black belt as well. There are others, but I was new in Australia. These are the only 3 guys that I knew, you know. So we had in competition, the purple belt was probably the highest level of competition. So, and then it's interesting that all that crew that used to compete back then, I know black belts with schools, you know, with jiu-jitsu schools. Gracie Barra was like myself, Professor Julio, Professor Pedro, and then Professor Marcio came, I think, only like a few months after, and then Professor Fred came as well. So, you know, so all that this crew now, the, you know, this close bond that we have from back then, we still hold, even though we're not together anymore, like not all the time, you know, like training together all the time. I mean, we still be like really close friends, you know, and try to talk to each other all the time about the schools, about everything that we do inside of schools, you know.